Webinar, a special edition 420. STRAINWISE Consulting. I'm Sean Eubanks, your host. We have a treat today. The webinar is titled How to Automate Your Cannabis Garden. So I will bring in our guest here in just one second. And I want to give you a couple quick announcements. Again, we have Blunt Business Radio that we're also producing right now. Very exciting stuff. We're on our third episode. As soon as we have our fourth one recorded, that will go live, and then it will go into iTunes at that point. So please stay tuned for Blunt Business Radio and that podcast we're very excited about. So STRAINWISE Consulting, you're here. You're going to take some time out of your day. Why would you listen to us? Let me go over a couple of things real quick to remind you guys of who we are and why we do what we do. We are the most sought after consulting company for cannabis applications and management contracts in the industry. We consulted on the very first recreational license in the world, and we have a nearly 100% success rate on applications submitted. We've won more than 200 licenses and maintained and renewed those as well. We're very proud of that. We have 9 branded dispensaries throughout Colorado as well. And in addition to that, over 160,000 square feet of cultivation space. And we are among, of course, the top 5 marijuana companies in Colorado. Forbes recently listed us as one of the top 50 publicly traded companies in the space. We're very proud of that. We're also very proud to announce that we were the consultant to the very first vertically integrated Native American tribe selling cannabis in the United States. So our special guest today, we have 2 gentlemen here. Sky Hank is one of the founders. He's been growing for over 20 years. He's having built gardens in all types of conditions with every configuration and at every level of industry. Answering the call for an automation and control solution that was built by growers for growers, the culmination of his wisdom and experience led to the co-founding of Smart Bee Controllers. Featured in High Times magazine, as well as a contributing author to publications of record for cultivators such as Maximum Yield, Sky Hank has taken his passion for growing to new heights as Smart Bee Controllers continues to prevent millions of dollars in crop loss, all the while helping new growers become good and good growers become great. So I want to welcome Sky Hank into this webinar today, as well as Jason Hadley. Let me see here. Hey guys, welcome to the show. Can you hear me? Hello.
Can you hear us?
Hey guys, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
All right. Hey, welcome to the show, Jason and Sky.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having us. And happy 420.
Yeah, happy 420, man. How's it going over there?
It's going awesome.
Wonderful. Well, man, I appreciate you guys coming on the show. You're a distinguished guest, and this is all about automation, and I look forward to the information you guys have to share with us.
Well, we are really happy to share information. I think, we're really passionate about how to simplify process and create efficiency within grow facilities. So the best way to do that is to automate.
Yeah, and for our listeners here, the people that can see the screen during the webinar, you can see smartbeecontrollers.com is the website, and you'll have that URL there to check out the website as we're talking. And for those of you who are joining on Facebook Live, you'll be able to hear Sky and Jason as well. So we welcome everyone to the show from Facebook Live as well as on the webinar. All right, so let's get started. So Sky, we're going to jump in, and Jason as well, and just kind of start asking questions, get to know you guys, and then, by the end of this webinar, we hope our listeners have a great handle on automation, do's and don'ts, and then a way to move forward if they're interested in Smart Bee Controllers.
Awesome.
All right, so first question, just getting to know you, Sky, real quick. What was your experience with the cannabis industry prior to deciding that you wanted to become part of the industry? I know you've been growing for around 20 years.
Well, I definitely partook in the enjoyment of herbal refreshments for years and years and years before I started growing, but that grew into being a very passionate part of my life. And, towards the end of high school in 95, 96, we started building small grow rooms, kind of just testing the waters, so to speak. And then, after college, really started getting into it. And, since about, I would say 99, 98 is when I really started doing it and started augmenting, my life with start to really think about ways to improve what you've been taught, and to try to become better and create better ways of doing things. So that's really kind of what started me. And we started this company about 5 years ago in 2012, and years and years of making mistakes and learning from mistakes and just redoing things over and over again. You get to know what's out there and available to help you to do better things. We were growing before grow tents were even a thing. We were building grow tents out of reflected insulation in '99. So you see the evolution of all the new products that have come out to help growers, and how much information is out there on how to grow, but yet there was never any validation on what and how your room is actually reacting, and if it's at the right level. So
So beforehand, just being a fan of the plant, what made you decide to go into the industry in the first place?
I like smoking it.
Okay. Fair enough.
I mean, it's very simple and straightforward. That led to wanting it to be a part of my life. I did a lot of marketing consulting and brand development and product development for other companies within the industry on the smoking side, consumption side, like glass and brands and that side of things. And then had met a couple clients that were in the grow equipment manufacturing realm, and started working with them. And through that, I saw how you could take existing technologies and really kind of put them into something that was more than what they had really come out for. So like inline fans, and you start seeing how you start taking things from other industries and pulling them in.
Yep.
That was my motivation. I really like thinking in an engineering kind of way, and wanting to see voids that were in the industry and how people did things and improve upon those. And I saw a void in the automation for what I would call like light commercial, and it's really grown. If you have to spend a lot of time automating something and then playing MacGyver to find out if it's working the way you wanted it to work, we really wanted to have a checks and balance, and that's really what got me into the concept of smart bee controllers.
Okay. Yeah, and so what is the difference, and what is control and what's automation? Let's kind of get some background there and just do some 101 if you can.
Well, so, we grew up in a time where everything was just analog controls. You have analog sensor that is not very accurate, controlling an exhaust fan or a dehumidifier. You just have very one-trick pony controls that don't really have any interaction, or they don't show any of the interdependencies between systems and how they affect each other. And you can have things that are antagonizing each other and not really working together to have the most efficient environment. And anybody who's grown long enough realizes that environment is a huge aspect to a quality product. If your room gets too hot, you're evaporating off volatile terpenes. If you have your room too cool and your humidity's too high, your plants aren't going to drink enough, and that can lead to overwatering. There's so many variables, and there's so much information about what you should have it at, that you should be able to manage all of those variables in a cohesive way where they're all unified in one spot, an integrated system. And so like analog controls do one thing well, but they don't really give you any information or feedback. And so that's kind of the difference. Control can be timers, and automation is a smarter system that has cause and effect rules in place.
Got it. When was Smart Bee Controllers founded?
In May 2012.
Okay, awesome. And so you guys aren't technically a marijuana company, right? You're a service business, which I think is a great lesson to people listening. I have that correct, right? You're serving the industry. You're not touching the plant.
Yeah, we don't touch the plant, but what we do is we are a solutions provider for an integrated solution. And we
Wonderful.
give you a lot of flexibility. One thing I know about growers is every single one grows differently.
Yeah.
And whether that's right or wrong, there's a lot of art, a lot of artistry in cultivation of cannabis. There's a lot of passion, and people try a lot of things. And I wanted to create a system that would be able to conform to different methodologies and give growers the flexibility to do the things the way that they wanted to do them. And so, with that in mind, that's kind of how we came up with the strategies for control in our system.
Okay. Great. So how does it differ from more analog or old school methodologies?
You're just using a lot higher resolution and better accuracy sensors. We're taking that information and making decisions. We're data logging all of that information for analysis. We show when devices are coming on and off and how that affects the sensor data in the room and what's going on in the room at the canopy level.
Well, and even still at the, speaking to the old school growers, who, are fearful of technology. These are the guys that are picking up their pots to measure the moisture content within the medium. And what if there was a solution out there where you could simply place a probe into a pot and get a much more accurate reading, let alone the temperature of that root zone is also important. And, while you might be able to pick up your pot, your finger is not a thermometer. So, a lot of growing in the past up until this huge influx in technology has been anecdotal experience. Well, I think that worked.
Another side of that is old school growers are experienced growers, but how do you give that information to somebody else in a meaningful way? How do you take something that's tried and true, a formula that works consistently, and relay that information to a new generation or to workers on site or, people that are going to be there to help you do larger facilities? It's difficult to relay complex concepts to people, but if you can show them what it's supposed to look like so that they can recognize outliers that could be costing them money in the form of lost yield and quality, then you're able to train people more efficiently and give people a better way of doing things. So.
Yeah, and that's a great point, Jason. You brought up a second ago, and both the challenge that you guys have. I totally respect the fact that you have people doing things a certain way, growers doing things a certain way, and there's this. I mean, I don't call it a myth. I mean, it's things that people believe. Is like, oh, we've got to touch the plant. Meaning I have to physically water every plant. That's fine for 20, 30, and it's a different shift into a commercial manufacturing facility, which is what most of them will look like. But to your point, why not put the device in there that measures that water? Why are you depending on someone's personality, how good of a day they're having, and how attentive they are to look at that plant and decide how much water it has? That just seems archaic and something that we should be letting go in the industry.
Or even just using it as another tool, like, hey, you see this water content level we have on the screen here? And then you pick up the plant. And you see the correlation between the weight of this plant and the weight of the medium in relation to the sensor that's showing this other data point.
Yep.
And then you begin to really take your grower's intuition and convert it into a metric that other people can validate for you.
Absolutely. So next question for you. Why are control and automation important to modern cannabis cultivation?
Because you're not going to hand water your way to success.
Yep.
Hand watering is great when you're learning, when you're trying to understand a specific cultivar. But as this world of cannabis cultivation changes and is evolving, there's a lot more at stake. The price of the finished product is, what is the word?
Diminishing, unfortunately.
Prophesized to go significantly lower. And as we move forward in this, people are going to have to really step up their game.
Yep.
And stepping up their game means automating. It means reducing the cost to produce a pound. If you can reduce the cost it takes to produce a pound from, say, 700 to maybe 400, that reduction from 2,000 or 1,800 a pound to $1,000 a pound may not be as impactful for a large scale facility. And so that's kind of one of the things that a lot of people are thinking about is like, okay, how do we compete in a market that's going to be flooded with quality cannabis? I mean, the only way to really do it is to reduce the overall cost of production, in my mind.
Yeah.
Well, and second to that point, or to develop on that, with the huge influx of commercial-sized facilities, especially a lot of newer investors to the industry that are just kind of looking to capitalize on current trends. All of these facilities are having, hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars poured into them. Yep. And you're putting all of this work and all of this time and all of this money only to sit there and have to hand water 30,000 plant sites. Mm-hmm. Well, you need to get up to speed a lot quicker. You have a learning curve that you need to cut on your facility that hard data is going to actually support, as opposed to kind of just scanning the room and going, well, I think everything's okay. So far, so good. What if you actually had an ability to make that investment back quicker because you had hard data backing up your head growers' decisions?
Great points, and it seems like I can just say I get a chance to travel around, talk to a lot of people. There's a general consensus out there that people are trying to get down to $500 or less production per pound and how to get there. And there's an honest discussion. A lot more people than you think are producing at $1,200 a pound. I know it sounds so high and out of this realm. It's not. There are mistakes being made and things like that. So automation might be not an option going forward. It might be something you just have to do right away to even compete.
I was just going to mention, in certain states, their cultivation laws are incorporating some level of control and automation as a mandatory component.
I know in Pennsylvania, they basically wrote their permit laws and their licensing laws requiring data logging across all of the same type of sensors that we have available. They need all of your temperature data, all of your humidity data, all of your security data, all of your water content, like all of these different metrics that have never really been required anywhere else. It's really interesting when I came across my desk.
Yeah.
I wanted to say one more thing. The thing about all of that money that's coming in and these people that are coming in, a lot of the growers are going to benefit from this because it's going to really bridge the gap in communication between the head grower and the investor. Because investors typically look at data points in order to make informed decisions. Yep. And I know that it can be really difficult to relay why you would need certain new equipment or new products in order to dial in an environment. And when you're able to kind of bridge that gap and have metrics that can really show an investor how there's a deficit in control strategy and give a grower the ability to relay that information in something that isn't, overly, I would say, anecdotal, you're going to get a lot better performance out of your grower. I've seen a lot of growers in Colorado and in Washington, and all of these grow facilities go through head growers like they're flushing the toilet. It's just one after the other, and I think it's really just a lack of communication and understanding on both sides to relay important information to each other and make good decisions as a team. So that's another big point.
Yeah, that's a great point. And talking about investors invest in what they know and what they're comfortable with. And when you lose crops, the investor wants to know that you know why you lost them. And the more you can simplify and provide data for them, I think it's a wonderful point, Sky, because it's at the end of the day, you're answering to your investors. And if you can give them precise information, maybe they continue to be their investor. But if you lose crops and you're not automated and you don't know why, or you're guessing, or the truth of the matter is they don't trust you, right? Or it's anecdotal, then you can lose your operation. And so I think that's a wonderful point. So shifting into
to pinch pennies. You know, that's what the investors do at the end of the day, and it's the grower's job to get the most out of the room. But if the grower can't convey why they need the tools that they need in order to get the job done for the investors, you end up with this Mexican standoff, if you will, around equipment versus, you know, investment.
Yeah, great point. So, guys, shifting into smart bee controllers. So, what is smart bee controllers?
Smart bee controllers really is an integration of all of your grow room systems into one software application that allows you to remotely monitor, control, and data log across your whole facility. Multiple rooms in one facility, drying and curing rooms where you can control dehumidifiers and bring down humidity over time. It gives you all of the information you need in one place. It really helps to mitigate the risk of crop loss through in near real-time information about what's going on site. It gives consultants the ability to monitor multiple grow facilities from afar. So say you have 10 or 12 clients that are all in different parts of your area. You can get up in the morning and look at what's going on at each one of those facilities and at that point make informed decision on which one is the priority of the day. And you can also take notes on how to task on-site staff for daily operation or maintenance type of things.
Very cool.
It allows you to make on-the-fly decisions about irrigation strategy as the needs of the plants change as you move through the phases of growth. You know, if you see your plants are drying down faster, it gives you the indication you need additional irrigations. And so there's so many different aspects of it, from environmental control, getting VPD readings. We really try to educate our customers on how this all works and why it's meaningful. You know, VPD is one of these new buzzwords that's out there, but it's a really difficult concept to articulate and to understand, you know, because there's so much variance in information that's being displayed. And, you know, for me, I try to really simplify it and just say, look, you're modifying the pressure you're putting on the plants to drink more or drink less. And you're helping to manipulate your irrigation based on environmental conditions. And when you're able to do that, you can really steer a crop towards a more vegetative type of growth or a more generative, productive type of growth in terms of flower production. And so having that as a tool is really important.
And for our listeners,
really it goes full circle. You know, we try to do light, temperature, humidity, VPD, volumetric water content, root zone temperature. We do CO2 control. We're moving into HVAC control. We have new PAR sensors that'll calculate DLI and your PPFD and give you information if your lights are close enough to the canopy, if you're losing intensity of your bulbs, because you know they cost the same to run them either way, but if they've lost the intensity of light, you're kind of have a diminishing kind of product production, but at the same amount of overhead. So you need to be able to know these things in order to make all of that happen.
I mean, if you know that you're not getting the photosynthetic quality of your light at week 6, as a responsible grower, are you going to really finish out those bulbs, finish out that crop knowing that you have inferior bulbs, or are you going to wait till lights out, go through, change all the bulbs, and bang the last couple of weeks out on fresh bulbs that will definitely show an increase in your yield?
Or just lower your lights.
Yeah. Absolutely.
You know, there's all kinds of solutions when you have information, but essentially we try to just show the interdependencies between the systems, help control them, give you a professional tool to make on-the-fly changes from wherever you're at, and then help to mitigate the risk of crop loss.
Okay, and then for our listeners, define VPD for us.
VPD is a vapor pressure deficit. It is the air's ability to hold water at different temperatures and the pressure that puts on a plant to transpire or to drink or to use water from the medium and push it up through its vascular system and out through its leaves. And so vapor pressure deficit at higher VPDs is going to force them to drink more. Sometimes it makes the plants a little bit more uncomfortable by drawing out their leaves a little bit, but it also forces them to drink more and push more water out their leaves. It also can reduce the risk of disease in rooms, such as powdery mildew or botrytis. You know, having a drier environment around your plants kind of keeps them outside of the disease highway. That is, you know, specific high humidity, dank rooms.
Okay, so I'm on your website, smartbeecontrollers.com, and I'm looking at the Ultimate Starter System. So that's only $3,600. Tell me what that includes and why I might want to buy that.
So that includes an LTH Pro sensor, which gives you light, temperature, humidity, CO2, and
Okay.
by light I mean light intensity. So say a light goes on in the middle, or you put an extra light in the room and you put it on a timer, and someone sets the timer wrong and your light is still on in the room. You'll be able to see that intensity of lighting in the graph and be able to fix it quickly. It has the ability to plug in a PAR sensor, so you can get that added functionality. And then it also includes a water content sensor and an extra 5 probes. So you have 6 probes total, which is good for about 60 plants. You know, we really try to say multiple measurement points can give you better aggregate averages in order to make good decisions. Redundancy is really the key. You want to have multiple points of reference and then take an average number in order to really, you know, control your irrigation. So it gives you the ability to monitor water content, dry down in the medium, root zone temperature. It gives you the ability to control all of your irrigations, whether you're using solenoids or pumps. It gives you the ability to actuate your lights on and off if using relay panels. You can control CO2 solenoids. You can control exhaust fans, heaters, dehumidifiers, humidifiers.
Well, and that's the other thing too, is there's two other components in the Ultimate Starter Pack. Number one, the Hive Gateway, which is the brain of the system, if you will. It's the PLC, the logic controller and rules engine that guides what the sensor data is taking in. And our Smart Strip is also included in that, which is a series of 4 plugs that are individually programmable. So the way that the system works as far as an Ultimate Starter Pack, it gives you a little bit of a taste of everything, in that you can use the environmental data to steer your third-party appliances that are plugged into the SS4 in order to get everything to turn on and off as needed based on your set points within the user interface. As far as the user interface is concerned, obviously that comes free with anything that has a Hive associated with it, and that you're basically pinging into a web app where you can log in, you can see the multiple rooms within the user interface, and you can dedicate those rooms to as individual control groups or microclimates, if you will, and be able to manage the facility on a much more micro level.
Okay.
Well, you know, larger rooms are more difficult to manage environment, and so if you can have appliances across your whole room and control them based on a smaller footprint. So say you have 3 or 4 light temperature humidity sensors in a 24 light space that is within a 96 light room, you can control that smaller group's dehumidifiers separate from the one that's all the way across the room, and maybe be able to have a better level of control in that larger space. I mean, there's so many different scenarios. It's really, you know, our industry has so many smart growers and just innovative people that giving them a tool that they can really thrive with is kind of what we're shooting for.
Okay, so on the Ultimate Starter System, how big of a grow does that control? And does it manage? Is it per room? Is it per square footage? I mean, how do I know how your system fits in with my large cultivation center?
So that Ultimate Starter Kit is basically an entry into the system. That'll do anything from a 1 light to maybe a 6 light grow.
Okay.
You know, something in a garage. But the cool thing is that SmartBee really grows with you. You can have a lot of additional hardware to augment the system and the size of the facility. So, for instance, if you are, you have a grow in your garage and you're getting a warehouse, you could move the same controller over to the warehouse that has 3 or 4 rooms in it, and you just buy additional sensors and controllers to control the appliances that are needed for environmental or control. You just add additional rooms in the software, and you bring the new devices onto the network, and it creates an even stronger mesh network than you had previously.
Okay, so let's lay out a facility. So let's say I've got 4 rooms that are veg rooms, and each room is 1,000 square feet. Okay. And then I'm going to say, okay, I've got 4 veg, and so I'm going to have 9 flower rooms of 2,500 square feet. Okay?
Why don't we keep it simple?
Okay.
Why don't we say we have 3 rooms in a facility? We have a veg room, and we have 2 20-light bloom rooms.
Okay, cool.
That's 1 hive.
Yeah.
And say you have 6 lights in your veg, I would probably use 2 just LTH sensors.
Light temperature, humidity.
And I would probably have 1 SS4, which is a smart strip, which has the 4 independently controlled outlets. 1 would control a humidifier, 1 would control a lighting trigger cable, and then the other 2 could control irrigation. In that.
Gotcha.
In the bloom rooms, let's just say we have it's 14 or 15 feet by like 30 feet long.
Okay.
We probably have 3 LTH sensors in there.
Okay.
I would say 2 of them would be Pro sensors, and you'd have 1 that's just an LTH. The Pro adds CO2, and you put 1 CO2 sensor at each end of the room, which also monitor light temperature and humidity, and you put another one in the middle of the room, which is just your light temperature and humidity. You have redundancy. You're getting an average across your canopy. And you do this in both rooms. Say you have 2 dehumidifiers in that room, and you have a lighting controller that you're triggering, and you have 4 zones of irrigation. So you could use 2 SS4s in that room. 1 of them would be used for your 4 zones of irrigation. 1 outlet would be used to control your 2 dehumidifiers, because you'd probably series them together and use a relay or a contactor that has a trigger cable that's plugged into the Smart V power strip, so you can control the 2 circuits for dehum at one time.
Okay.
You would have 1 that was a CO2 emitter, and 1 that was controlling your humidifier, so that you could add humidity in the first 2 weeks if you needed to. And you would also probably put in a Blue Lab Guardian, so that we could monitor EC, pH, and water content. But that would be the Smart V enabled Blue Lab Guardian. And then that gives you reservoir maintenance, or if you're using dosatrons, we could have the inline version of the Smart V enabled Blue Lab Guardian that could monitor inline fertigation. And whether you're using tanks and solenoids or using a dosatron and solenoids, either way works really well with our system.
Okay, so
you figure you need let's see, if you have 30 plants in each zone, you could do 2 water content sensors and 2 5-packs of probes total for each of your bloom rooms. So that would be 2 water content sensors, 2 5-packs of probes, 2 LTH pros, 1 LTH, and 2 SS4s for each 20 light room.
So I think kind of the takeaway from this is, because we're starting to kind of get into like a laundry list of product and such, but really what it comes down to is the ultimate starter pack, as Sky mentioned, is really, like I said, the entry into the system, because we're scalable, and we spend a lot of time doing a lot of custom quotes. So we receive a lot of calls from commercial growers, and as Sky mentioned earlier, everybody's doing it slightly different. So it's really hard to kind of come up with like a cookie cutter solution short of an entry to the system, because really when you start digging deeper into what their needs for a solution are, they're as varied and as different as every individual grower. So I spend a lot of time in my day on the sales side generating a lot of custom quotes.
Sure.
And really diving down on a consultative level. What do these guys need? What is their strategy? How do they want to accomplish what they're looking to accomplish?
Essentially, context of use for our products to what their assumed control strategy is.
Okay, and so along those lines, Jason, as far as, do you have an average spend that people, so if someone's just kind of listening on the webinar and they're thinking, all right, can I afford automation? Is it worth it? What's the investment? And being fair to them, right? They're looking at 20 different things. They're talking about cost of build out, acquisition of real estate. It's just a lot of things. And they're like, okay, do we automate or not automate? If they're on the fence and along those lines, do you have kind of an average spend?
Well, I can tell you first and foremost, control and automation strategy should be a line item at the beginning of the build out phase.
Yep.
As opposed to spending at the end. In other words, you're really making an investment in yourself. And how successful do you want to be on the front end? When it comes down to it, people think of automation last in some cases, and it's seen as a cost versus putting it in as a line item at the beginning, and it's part of the original investment and part of the strategy of making your initial buy-in back.
I mean, I think about it like, this system doesn't really cost you anything if it saves your grow one time. Yeah.
Okay.
If you spend $20,000 on a system and you have 150 lights and it saves one 40 light room, it's paid for itself like 10 times over just in saving you from that crop loss. And say you don't have any problems and your spot and all of your control systems are flawlessly working with zero unscheduled downtime due to mechanical failure. You're going to have a lot more consistent environment, which over time is going to lead to increased yield and quality. And if you can gain an extra 10% even of yield over the course of a year, that system's paid for itself 10 times over. So really, you just need to take a look at how you do things and being consistent and getting consistent results.
Okay.
And if you're already getting consistent results, there's still improvement that can happen. If you're consistently getting 2 or 2.5, I know people that are getting as much as 3.5 to 4 pounds of light in some instances. And if you're talking gram per watt, I've seen increases happen consistently from multiple of our customers. So it's not just saying it. If you look on Instagram what people are saying about our products, you'll see that we add value on several different levels. And that's really what it comes down to. Like, I don't want to toot our horn the whole day, but at the end of the day, if it's adding value to our customers' life and giving them a better quality of life, and has the potential to not really cost them anything because it's giving them protection and peace of mind and the ability to spend more time doing the things that are important to them, the cost of it is negligible.
Or in cases like in states where this is considered a capital equipment expense, it's a tax write-off, as well as taking the depreciation on it as well. So I kind of get where you're getting at, is like a hard number of like, what does it cost for somebody at this level to get into the system, and what does it cost at this level? We've done $3,000 build-outs, we've done $100,000 build-outs, and everything in between.
But if you compare that to commercial ag, precision agriculture automation systems like Priva or Argus, you're potentially going to be starting within his facility. So,
wow.
If you don't have $1 million to spend on your build-out for automation, we may be a really good option that fills that gap where they don't have the budget to spend $1.5 million on an automation system, but maybe they have 30 that's going to give them that added value and protect their investments so that they can grow to the size that they want to be down the road.
Okay, so somewhere between 3,000 and 100,000 is kind of about where you guys are. All right, so I'm going to pepper you with some questions, and we'll kind of go through this, and so our listeners can get a better understanding of smart bee controllers. Okay, so what benefits would new growers gain from a smart bee controller system?
Well, for one, taking the fear out of being a new grower. I mean, that's the whole thing is
Sure.
It doesn't matter how much training you have. If you're thrown to the wolves and you're on your own, wouldn't it be helpful to be able to see the room the way the plants see it and gain a competitive edge, and cut your learning curve?
Okay. And then next question, overall, what are the benefits of having an environmental and irrigation control strategy? We've talked a little bit already. I'm just kind of throwing some questions at you.
Sure. Well, you know, the more you know, the more you grow, as we say.
Okay. And then this is a good one. So while monocropping seems fairly straightforward, how do those environmental and irrigation control strategies answer the needs for gardeners who grow multiple strains or multiple phases within the same room?
You can easily take our water content sensors and control different zones of irrigation and manipulate the irrigation strategies based on the needs of the plant. And so say you have one row of one strain, another row of another, they're all in the same room. They don't need the exact same things. Some plants feed heavier, some plants feed lighter, some like it more dry, some like it to be moist. And so if you can see what's going on in the plant's growth zone, you can manipulate that and get that plant to perform for you to a high level of.
And it doesn't even need to be multiple strains. I mean, like, you know, when you're vegging your room out and you're moving it, transitioning it into bloom, you know, you want to put all your tall guys with your tall guys and all your short guys with your short guys. That way everybody's kind of, you know, getting the watering that they need. You're not over-watering the shorties and under-watering the tallies.
Right.
I mean, we try to protect or help new growers through some of our tools, but they become very useful for experienced growers as well. We have the overwatering set point in our software, which is the most water content that you would want to allow a timed irrigation to take place. So it helps to prevent people from just watering on a set schedule, whether the plants need it or not. And then we also have the onset of stress set point, which is the lowest water content you'd want in your medium before an emergency irrigation was initiated. Both of those also provide you with a real-time notification, and you get notified if either one of those critical events happened. So, you know, knowing if your power goes out is an important one. We send notifications for that as long as you have battery backup on your internet service devices. So getting that information is great. You know, turning off your lights in the event that your air conditioning goes out or your cooling devices go out, or for some reason your heat keeps rising and you don't know why and have no way to control it. The last thing you want to do is walk into a room full of straw, which is not very good. I've seen that several times where an air conditioning or a mini split will switch from cooling mode to heat mode unbeknownst to the grower, and you walk into the room and everything's brown and dead, and you're like, wow, that was a waste of everything. And
what if I'd known 5 minutes after it happened?
Yeah, and they still have to cover all of the overhead for the facility. They still got to pay their guys. I mean, they don't get a break on their overhead and their expenses because they had a crop loss. So, you know, it's just protecting their facility.
Cool. Sorry to interrupt, guys. I got to move on. So what kind of equipment or knowledge do smart bee controllers users need to get started?
They need to know how to use an app on their phone.
Yep.
We have customer support guys who'll help them get their remote access set up, and the app is pretty easy to use. And we also, you know, try to act in a consultative way. We provide how-to videos on our YouTube channel. And we try to really, you know,